All right, I think we're live. Well, good morning, good now, and good day wherever you are, everybody. Welcome to another series of Empowered Wellness series. I'm smiling because we had a bit of technical difficulties to get the session started today, but we're going to have an incredible session. Thank you all for being here. Um, my name is Anderson. I am your host today, and to get the conversation kicked off, I would love to introduce my panelists. I'm joined here today with my beautiful panelists from across the globe. I'm going to start with Sylvia. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? And then we're going to go with Georgette and we'll kick off this incredible topic of women in leadership. So, Sylvia, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Anderson. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our next series of Empowered Wellness. We are super excited to come on today and talk about women in leadership. And my name is Sylvia Vitos. I am dialing in from Dubai, in United Arab Emirates, and I help corporate leaders and executives achieve that balance inside out, in and out of the office so that they too can live a happier and healthier life. I myself spent 15 years in corporate in logistics industry up to executive management level, and then 3 years ago founded my company Livity, Maximize Your Well-being, and that's all about bringing that passion to the world, helping corporate leaders live a happier and healthier life. Over to you, Georgette.
Hello, everybody. My name is Georgette, and I am a nurse and a holistic health and wellness coach. I am an author and a speaker, and I'm calling in from Little Rock, Arkansas. And today we're going to talk about, women in leadership. Anderson, the mic is yours.
That's beautiful. Thank you both very, very much. Sylvia, that was amazing introduction. Georgette, I love how you keep it nice and brief. Our what I call is our third amigo is not here today. That's Ruksha. Unfortunately, Ruksha couldn't join us, but sending Ruksha love wherever you are. My name is Anderson Dinga. I'm the founder of Live Unity, and we all just came together because us well health and wellness coaches were doing kind of identical things but in different places. So we figured we'll join our forces together to empower you, to empower people to live their best lives. Wellness is something that we're all deeply passionate about. I'm deeply passionate about wellness. And this month, be that it is Women's History Month, and tomorrow, be that it is International Women's Day, I thought it would be incredible to just dedicate the two conversations that we're going to have this month to women, and especially to women in leadership. I happen to have operated in the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility space for a few years. And I saw firsthand some of the challenges when you talk about the differences between men and women when it comes down to equity and equality in the workspace. So for me, it's an honor to be here to join you both in this conversation and to join everybody who was tuned in to listen in on this incredible conversation. So in order to get us started, I thought it would be great to kind of ground us in some historical context and maybe some statistics that can go with the topic of women in leadership. So we're not just talking, we're not just making up things and as we're going along, we actually ground it in actual statistics. So um, I'll go first, and then I'll love to hand it off to you, Sylvia, and then go to you, Georgette. Mine is really simple. It was incredible when I came across this statistic. 10.4%. That's the stat which I heard. This is the number of women, the percentage of women leaders who are in the Forbes 500. So you can imagine that's about 52 women who are leaders in the Forbes 500. They're calling this an all-time high, which I thought was kind of ridiculous to think about. Is 10%. So growing up for me, I didn't have a whole lot of experience seeing a whole lot of women in leadership. We heard of Margaret Thatcher, but nowadays I think I've seen a whole lot more women rise into the ranks of leadership, from Greta Thunberg. to Malala and the Malala Fund. So I'd love to ground us in some statistics around women in leadership. Over to you, Sylvia. And if you'd like, what I'll do is I'll actually share my screen, Sylvia. You let me know what you'd like for me to do. I can share my screen
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, you can just
all right.
share and I will talk it through because there are some very interesting data that I came across and thought it's easier if you all can follow along also on the screen. So, women in leadership is obviously very close to my heart coming from that space, and the stats are very shocking, both positive and negative. But Anderson, you were just talking about the 10% is sounds like a joke, although we came a long way. And I can absolutely relate to that because it has to do also with the industry. I came from logistics, of course, but especially towards the end in the executive management roles, what I was experiencing is usually I was in a room with 10 to 20 guys and me alone, or maybe another lady around, but that's it, right? So that is really probably representative. However, here are some really empowering data that came across from some of the researches and studies that has been conducted. And here this one is talking about how women outscored men on 17 out of 19 leadership capabilities that differentiate excellent leaders from the average or poor ones. And then you can just see all those capabilities and skills and to which extent they were deviating from each other. But isn't it interesting? And I think it tells a lot about our will, our power, our wanting to show and prove our worthiness to be considered as equal human beings to men as such, if you like. And that's if you can go to the next one to just hone in. I have three of those uh, over here. Yeah. So this study conducted by Gallup shows actually that female leaders are much better at engaging their employees than male managers. So that's again based on feedback from employees as they were conducting through surveys. That's another very interesting feedback. Congratulations, female leaders, and keep crushing it, I would say. Going to the last one, which is about managing teams. If you look at this, what it shows is basically that teams which are led by women, the roles believed to be functioning much better in general. Why so? Because in general, and we do not really like to generalize, but this time we will, because in general, what we see, what the data shows as well, is that women leaders care more, they show more support, they are a little more flexible and understanding when it comes to work-life related challenges. They delegate differently and observe with a lot more care how the workload is being distributed. So it has a lot of aspects, but probably it comes from this natural motherhood kind of approach. And every time you are even in a professional environment, it still feels a little bit like a family. And I used to say all the time back in corporate world, for my team, I consider them as my kids, helping them grow and develop and evolve through the time we spent together. So super interesting stats, very empowering. I hope, ladies, you all take note of that and carry it with you because we've got this. Georgette, curious to hear yours.
Well, looking at all the data, I kind of checked around the world how many female presidents there were. There are plenty in Eastern Europe and in the islands, Southeast Asia. There's so many, very many women leaders, not only presidents, but prime ministers and, high-ranking officials in different countries. And what I found was that these women came with a whole different approach, where even though the men tend to look at the GDP, the women looked at, they affected heavily the social culture, a sense of belonging, ownership in who they are, what country they're part of. and all the other soft, very difficult to measure, self-reported things about them being leaders. So just reading through, in many of these women in leadership, what the counter to their leadership style was, well, the GDP did not increase, but so many other resources within the country that helped women and children and even men. Basically, they started to make things or put things in place that eradicated suffering. That is the heaviest impact that they had. Some presidents, especially those women presidents, were great, and their GDP increased. The way their relationship internationally changed. So many great things about women leaders going on there. During the pandemic, I remember the New Zealand president, or prime minister rather, jumped on the pandemic so quickly that their numbers were ridiculously low. And the same thing in, I cannot remember if it's Norway or Sweden. I just got mixed up there. And those women really kept the country. Their COVID numbers were low because they had a whole different approach to it. They were not looking necessarily to make money off of the pandemic with masks and all those things. They were talking, they more cared about the health of the country. So that was very fascinating to me, even at that time when I was paying attention. In the United States, there's greater than 60% women with college degrees. So there are more women getting educated, and because they do have the backing of formal education, are more likely to get into leadership roles in whatever field that they're in. And in the healthcare field, there's so many women CEO who are leading different pockets, different layers, different groups within the healthcare system. And what I'd really like to see is more female leaders across the board, and also women, especially with the healthcare industry, women who also have medical background, because that changes the way we see things. So those are some few things that stood out to me. Thank you. Anderson, you have the mic.
Thank you, Georgette, and don't go away. I'm going to keep you on the mic because as you were talking, you just kind of triggered my mind. And this is probably just the second question, which is going to come to you. Like, are there actually significant differences, or are there differences that we should be talking about when you talk about leadership styles when it comes to men and women? And if there are those differences, what are those differences, and how can we acknowledge them better and navigate through our leadership spaces better, knowing those differences?
Is this for me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's for
Okay.
you. And then I'm gonna swing back around to Sylvia because you were sharing some interesting statistics over there, but you were talking about leadership styles around COVID, specifically different between New Zealand. And so I wonder whether you've been witnessing differences between men and women in different industries, in different locations, geographies, cultural differences. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Across the board, I think there's a divine gift that women have when it concerns collaboration. Women are generally concerned about the health of the group as a whole. And so that's a very common approach for women leaders, is a collaborative space. It's just like Sylvia was saying, a space where, instead of getting snappy or, oh my gosh, our bottom line is gonna hurt because somebody had to go take care of a kid or a dying parent or some major life thing, women are naturally saying, okay, so what do you want to do? I'm going to give you this time. And when you have that kind of leader, the natural thing to do is, well, yeah, I might be gone technically from work for so long, but here's what I can do. So it brings out a natural desire to serve, a natural desire to keep doing what they were already doing, because when you have a female leader that does that, you feel cared for. You feel like everything about you matters. They're not just saying, okay, go take care of that and then come back and then you have no idea what's going on. I have seen more times where someone has been off work, male or female, and the female leader just checks in. There's a checking standard. Like, even if it's not them personally, they'll tell somebody, check on this person, see how they're doing. How soon are they coming back to work? Is everything okay? Do they need extra time? I have seen that happen way more often than when I've had a male boss. So it's quite collaborative in that aspect, and it's more community based, more, there is grit in there. There is grit in there. It's like, we need to get this done. This has to be done at this time. Everybody and the delegation, just like the statistics showed, it's way different. It is way different. And part of it is like the thing where, if once you have a little girl in the house that copies mom, if that little girl can delegate to their little brothers and sisters, she can be a leader. And I think that is so overlooked just because it's more collaborative than it is very hierarchical, where with the men, it's like, here's the task, here's what we need to do, here's the bottom line, meet that. And then they go scramble, and everybody's fighting, and everybody's trying to push the other person down, or scared to collaborate because they want to impress the male boss. When you have female leadership, that is less likely to happen. And that's what I think can be a turnoff for a lot of men, is that that sense of competition is not drawn out of them as often or as much or as intensely as they want. So then they see female leaders as they don't know what they're doing. Whereas it's just a different style, meaning that if you collaborate, you get way more done, way more done when you collaborate. And with the female leadership, there's also recognition, where it's like, oh, you guys did a great job, and so spearheaded this project. Whereas with the men, it's more of the outcome. Who came with the best outcome? It doesn't necessarily matter who was part of the team, who they consulted, if they even consulted anybody's like, look at bro over here. He got it done just in time. And then the other bros go, man, I need to do this next quarter. And there is no sense of belonging. There's no sense of collaboration. It's all about who's getting the recognition, who is getting ahead in life, who's climbing up that corporate ladder, who has the most, contacts in their back pocket type situation. Whereas a woman is going to go, here are our contacts, tag team this. And it usually, the outcome is generally better, because then whoever you're targeting, whether it's sales, marketing, any type of industry, they don't feel bombarded. They don't feel overwhelmed by, that kind of tag team situation. So that's just one aspect. There's so many, but I'll yield the mic for now.
Oh, I love that aspect. Actually, there were a few aspects in there. You talked about recognition, which was incredible. You talked about collaboration, which is also incredible. I can't wait to hear what Sylvia has to say about these things as well. You talked about caring, just like caring about the process, not just about the outcome. There are just so many different bits there, because I'll tell you, like, I've operated in those spaces before as a man, and yeah, we typically care about the outcome, like how quickly can you get this thing done, or how much less money can you get it done in. And typically when you slash the budget, we sacrifice on health. So I would love to hear your thoughts, Sylvia. Thank you very much for that, Georgette. It's incredible hearing your input. Sylvia, what are your thoughts? Do you see that there is significant, or there are differences between men and women when it comes to leadership styles? And if there are, what are some of those differences that you identify? Over to you, Sylvia.
Yeah, thank you. And I really loved all these aspects that you, Georgette, were mentioning, and couldn't agree more. Although I would really like to start with emphasizing that please, please do not understand it on a way that if you are a woman, then this is how you are, and if you are a man, then this is how you are, because we are kind of stereotyping and generalizing a little bit based on our experiences. But of course, I have seen plenty of examples from the opposite direction. So everything exists, but in a wide variety. I absolutely agree that in general, and that's just by nature, men will very much be driven by more pragmatic decisions, going after the facts, analysis, and really just taking those decisions as they have to be taken, whereas women will apply a higher level of emotional intelligence, so to say, a higher level of empathy. They move naturally a lot more towards the feelings and emotions, while also caring about how it impacts others and what's the ripple effect, not just others, but what it causing, what a decision, for example, is causing in the surroundings of the individual who is involved in that decision. so that they have this natural capability of, that looking at the big picture and approaching things more from the emotional perspective. Another interesting observation probably I would mention is that women somehow have this capability of just getting things done magically within a short period of time and squeezing it in, because they have so much on the plate. And what I mean by that is, for us ladies, it's not just about showing up in our leadership role and delivering results at our job or at our company or organization. But then we got the family to look after, the kids to take care of, we got the household to make sure the groceries are done, dinner is cooked, and so on and so forth. So, which usually is not, or at least less, on the man's plate. And that really requires that laser focus, no wasting time, and just squeezing a lot of things in to a much shorter period of time. So I think it's sometimes really bringing out some magic. Of course, it also has the flip side, so to say. But yeah, these are probably the thoughts I would like to add. Georgette, you mentioned many. And curious to hear if you, Anderson, have some additional thoughts to share with us.
Yeah, no, you and thank you very much, Sylvia, for calling out the stereotype, right? Because I do reckon that we are pulling the extreme scenarios, but there are a lot of men who have leaned in the direction of being more feminine, and there are a lot of women who have leaned in the direction of being more masculine. Having operated in a DEI space, I want to talk about the women who have leaned in the direction of being more masculine, but I also want to talk about a statistic which I also saw within the last, I think it was between 2017 and 2021. I saw this statistic that a lot of women were leaving corporate leadership. They had just had enough. They had had enough with the toxic masculinity. They had enough with the very rigid timelines. When you talk about work, I got to take care of my kids, but my kids are home with me. And now I have no flexibility whatsoever to look after my kids and to work at the same time. So I saw a lot of that going on. But the thing about, and I don't know if any of you have seen this as well. I've seen this scenario happen too often where women will rise up the ranks and they'll get to a certain point and then they will start acting like the guys. They will start going out to the happy hours and, rubbing the shoulders and, being one of the bros and literally being more like a lot more masculine than some of the guys that I would actually think about. And I've seen this scenario happen too often. And in that particular scenario, and this might be a 1%, I don't know how often this happens, but in that scenario, I've seen women get very, very competitive, even with each other. Like, even with each other. And I'm like, okay, this is not even women empowering each other. This is women competing with each other so they can beat the bros and beat each other as well. So it's really interesting seeing that dynamic as it plays out in the corporate space, that competitive nature. And I guess we all kind of have it. Every one of us has the masculine side and the feminine side, and some may have more than others. But I've certainly seen that experience happen. The intriguing thing, though, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it, between 2017 and 2021, I did see the statistic that there was a lot more women left the corporate leadership space and they wanted to do things like what their hearts desire, follow their passion, follow their purpose. Sylvia, I'm going to come to you first and then I'm going to go to Georgette. Are you seeing this similar or identical trend? And if you are, what are some of your thoughts as to why this is happening, Sylvia?
I can speak out of experience because I'm one of those women who actually left corporate in that time. And yeah, absolutely. There are many, not just women, also men, by the way, because I think there is a huge wake up call happening worldwide, especially the COVID is still having the ripple effect. People started to understand that I can be working from wherever, be connected, do some digital business and whatnot, and I don't need to be just glued to an office chair every single day, 12 hours a day, or how long. So it makes a huge difference, of course, not to underestimate that journey, because it is not easier than being in a corporate leadership role. I'd like to highlight that too. But yeah, 100% there is a trend.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Sylvia. Georgette, over to you. What are your thoughts?
The thoughts, I'm a nurse, so nurses generally have held, if you work at the bedside, that's, in a hospital, in a clinical setting, the average nurse over that I've known has always had two things going on, two jobs. And they usually have had a side gig going on long before it was called a side gig. And so what is happening with the changes, at least in the healthcare industry, is that COVID really, really exposed the healthcare industry in the United States, and I think around the world too, but heavily in the United States, to where nurses finally said, we already work way too hard and we're not necessarily paid what we're worth. And so we generally will go find a side gig or a second job somewhere. And many, like hundreds of thousands, left the bedside. A lot of them, even on LinkedIn, are writers, they're health coaches like me. They're wellness coaches like me. They're speakers, they're authors, they're doing all these other extra things until they get to the point where the second thing that they're really passionate about provides them enough financial stability for them to quit their day job. So it's quite common. And just like Sylvia said, it's not an easy transition. It's not, being an entrepreneur requires a different level of awareness, consciousness, spiritual grounding, financial understanding of what you're undertaking, and a whole bunch of learning about the industry that you're in and making sure that those collaborations they keep coming in. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. It's for people who have the grit, to be able to move forward. Community wise, even just observing with women, there's so many who want to go into leadership right now. Plenty who want to go into leadership. However, because we have Gen Z changing the way we work for us, I think we're riding on that wave, a lot of women, and going, finally, somebody's being bold enough, being brash enough, being gritty enough to say, this pay is not livable. And they're not, I don't think, from what I've read, Gen Z is not necessarily asking for this extra exorbitant pay. They're asking for a livable wage to start with so that they have something to work towards. And so as women, which I'm observing a lot especially in the healthcare industry, that is the way they're going. It's, you pay me what I'm worth, or we're not doing this. Many more people are okay living with mom and dad and moving their kids in with them, with their husbands. And like, even though it's happening a lot for women, men who are going through the same things, I would stay with my friend, my brother, whoever will allow me to live with them until I get a livable wage to do something. And what tends to happen in the meantime, because I'm sitting in front of both of you, is that you come up with this great, amazing problem solving business, this practice that, to solve a problem that we're dealing with. So it's very, very common. And I can't wait to see what women leadership looks like in the future. I attended a segment of a Kendra Scott presentation in January, and hers was a true collaborative effort, because with women, when they hire other women, they generally will keep those women for a very, very long time, because they understand that, oh, wait, she's having a baby now. Like, just if I told someone, oh, I'm pregnant and I'm starting a new job, chances are, as much as it's illegal over here, they won't hire me. Kendra Scott will hire you. The women like her will hire you and say, that's great, work until that time comes. And before they go on maternity leave, they've already found like a temporary person to take your spot, or reassign the tasks so evenly that you can go relax and actually have your maternity leave, and then you come back. So women leaders generally will keep families together if the men would just breathe, and understand that it's a complementary leadership style, not an opposing one. So back to you, Anderson.
Mm, mm. I love how you just ended it there, where you landed with it's a complementary, not an opposing. And I think that sums up this entire conversation which we'll be having. Like, women are more collaborative, they're more complementary, they'll rather break down the silos than build up the walls, things like that. So I think that's incredible. And by the way, my sister's watching this. She's dialing from Texas, and she's an entrepreneur as well. So, so it's so fascinating we're having this conversation. Amen. Well, good to see you, Sylvia. Over to you. What are your thoughts with the statistics of women leaving the corporate leadership space to go in and pursue entrepreneurship or the thing that their hearts desire? I think we just talked through that whole conversation. And I would like for you to give any comments, any feedback on what Georgia just shared.
Yeah, I think probably we can dedicate a full month and two sessions to that topic because there is so much to talk about. I believe when you are on one side, you easily have this idea that the grass is much greener on the other side, and what a fun, cool life it is to become an entrepreneur and then have all the time of the life and do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. And that's all beautiful, and that's the goal of most entrepreneurs. That's the freedom, the independence that we are in some way aiming for. And I hate to reveal that for everybody, but it is a much, much bigger and heavier sacrifice learning curve. First and foremost, internal work, self development, self leadership that we all gotta go through, because especially coming from the corporate background, I can tell you that the mindset you require for the entrepreneurial journey is just the exact opposite. Everything is against what you already know and believe how it should be functioning. And learning that basically from scratch and being willing to go through that path. And it's an emotional roller coaster, whether you are a man or a woman, doesn't matter. And you gotta have a very, very strong faith in whatever you are tapping into, because that's the only drive that will help you through those moments and that you can keep going. That's at least my experience, and everybody who I ever spoke to in the entrepreneurial world, a couple of hundreds of people confirm the same. There is a reason why the scary statistics say that there are plenty of small businesses starting nowadays, especially. I think this year gonna be even more than, let's say, just last year, for example, but it's only 2%, 2% that really survives beyond 3 to 5 years, and that will also be successful and thriving. There is a reason for that. And yeah, as George had said, this is not for the people who cannot handle setbacks, failures. There is a lot of emotional things that we all need to go through and process and understand and learn. And I'm not an exception, and I'm well on the journey also. And I have to say that the development, for me, the biggest win I have out of this is my personal development. The way how I became an absolutely new person, and people who I haven't seen for longer period of time and I meet again, they confirm all the time that, oh my God, you just became a different, you are so different than 2 years ago or 3 years ago. No need to go back very far, because we must become extremely self-aware. It's a continuous reflection, analysis, understanding what's going on inside, on the outside as well. And another very important aspect is that I learned the hard way, because I also thought naively that it's gonna take probably 3, 4, 5 couple of months to just ramp it up and earn at least as much as I did in corporate and then so much more. And this is absolutely not how it works. It's a much, much longer journey. First of all, everything, no matter what you start and no matter what you tap into, everything will take at least 3 times the time that you estimate, maybe even 5 times the time. And as I heard another day from Alex Hormozy in one of his podcasts, that humbled me tremendously, actually, because he was putting it all together that the reason why so many entrepreneurs are not succeeding because they are just not patient enough. And this impatience come from the high expectations of just mastering it all within a matter of couple of months. And then he started listing up all those skills that you need to learn, embody, master, because this is mastery. It's not that you go to a class and then next day you just do it. You have to master how to communicate, what's marketing, how do you sell, what are the technicalities that you can use, how do you create landing pages, sales pages, other pages, I don't know, lead magnets, what is this at all? What are we talking about? How do you pull together your finances? How do you hire people? How do you lead people? How do you create standard operating procedures? Where do you start? Where do you end? The list goes on and on and on and on. How do you ever expect to master all this in a matter of couple of months' time? It's impossible. You don't learn as much in a university in a matter of 4 years. And that's what I feel actually, that I mastered the last 2 years a lot more than what I did back in university in 4 years' time, because now I have the will, now I have the drive. There is not a single day that I would have not learned anything, not a single day. It's every day learning, listening, reading, implementing, figuring it out, failing more and fast to learn faster. And then at one point we will succeed. And I will stop here because I'm super passionate about this topic, and I hope we will have a full month to talk about it because it's very exciting, and for sure it's exciting for those who eventually are considering stepping onto this journey. But yeah, I will just stop here and give it back to you.
I absolutely love it. Sylvia, you shared so many gems, and we are dedicating an entire month to talk about this. And in our
Yeah.
next session, we're going to be sharing some actual tactical strategies, right? Because you just drop a whole lot of strategies there, and I'm like, yeah, we probably need more time to go into those, building confidence, building self-compassion, all of those things that you're talking
Yeah,
about. Those are skills which I had to learn for me as a man going into entrepreneurship, but those are skills that were never
of
taught to
course,
me, like to be kind to yourself,
of
So
course.
yeah,
We are not
I
born with
absolutely
this.
love that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I say we were not born with these.
Oh yeah.
We have to
Oh yeah.
learn for this.
100. Oh, 100%. 100%. So I love this. This is incredible. Thank you so much. And for some of the men who are dialed in right now, I think it's really important for them to just pay attention and be listening, because these skills that we're learning to dive into entrepreneurship, this conversation that we're having, the support that we're giving, the allyship that is needed for us to get to that place of equity, for us to get to that place of equality, where we can see each other, we can hear each other at those levels of leadership. I think it's really, really important. When I look at the statistics around entrepreneurship and the number of businesses that fail every single year, and they start every single year, considering that it's also male dominated, it's crazy to see how many businesses fail. I could only imagine s- seeing what is going to happen if we empower more women to go into entrepreneurship. So, Georgette, what are your thoughts when you think about women in entrepreneurship? Because I know that you're also you're also treading those waters. What are some of those skills that you think are necessary today for women in entrepreneurship? And we can certainly talk more about those skills when we come back the next time. Georgette, over to you.
Yes. So as an entrepreneur, the one thing that I've learned how to do better is be able introduce myself. So we grow up, just like Sylvia said, we don't know these things just growing up. Some people are great at meeting people. Some people have charisma and they just go out and they do things. But I've also spent enough time with charismatic people who don't know how to introduce themselves. And to me, that's always going to be something in progress. It's not stagnant. It's not, because we're growing, that's why I named my coaching practice Evolve Fullness, because we're coming to our fullness all the time. It's just an ongoing process. There's never an end point with it. And as a nurse, we're not very good about tooting our own horns. You will not find an average nurse go, oh yeah, look at me, I'm being awesome, this, that, and the other. We embody it, we express it with the way we take care of people, and you go, oh, that's the nurse I need to follow. That's the nurse I need to talk to. And then that just, because it's a female dominated industry, even outside of the workforce, that is another thing where a lot of people will introduce themselves and go, I'm so and so's mom. And so being an entrepreneur requires you to embody yourself fully and truly without the guilt, without the shame of the other hats or roles that you might be performing every day, and own yourself again. And I had to learn that this did not diminish my motherhood. This did not diminish anything as a woman. It actually empowered me to remain grounded in my own self and centered, so that the world does not pull me in so many directions and I just kind of go with the flow, which the average woman tends to do. Nurses tend to do the thing where we're nurses and we're like, I'm just going to help you. And it's only 30 minutes after I clocked out, but it's okay. I'll do this extra thing for you. It's a lovely sentiment. It's a beautiful way to be. However, once you start owning your own self, then you start creating boundaries, because you realize your energy is being drawn into so many directions and it leaves you drained. That's why you hear a lot of women go, that's why when you say, let's go on a retreat, it does not matter where that retreat is. Half the women are like, where do I sign up? Because when we go there, we are not taking care of anybody but ourselves. So as an entrepreneur, the number one thing, male and female, but especially women, ladies, own yourself. You not mentioning that you have a child or children or a husband or you're taking care of a parent or whatever does not make you less than a woman. It is part of who you are. It is a thing that you do. It is a role that you play. But in learning to introduce yourself is being who you are. Those are two separate things. You do all these things, but who you are is who you are being when you talk to people. So it took a while for me to learn how to say, I am a nurse, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a health and wellness coach, progress catalyst. It took a while to kind of put all those things together. But the more I've done it, the more I embody the sentiment, because that is who I am. It's not just the role I play, it is who I am. And I've met people who don't even know that I'm a mom until maybe a year later, and they go, what? You have a kid? And at first it threw me off, but then it reminded me that I am this person. I didn't come out of a vacuum. There was a girl before the child, and there's a woman after the child. So toot your own horn as beautifully and kindly and generously as possible. I yield the mic.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Georgette. Wow, so many incredible gems in this session. Introducing yourself, that's something that even I struggled with. A couple years ago, I hired a coach to teach me how to be a better public speaker. um, Through the entire coaching session, what I learned how to be is how to be myself. And it was so fascinating because I came in with this one goal in mind, to stand on stages, to convince people and all that stuff, to appear as this person externally, which was disconnected from this person internally. And when you talk about the embodiment, I think there's so much of what Sylvia was saying as well earlier, which resonates with what you're saying, is that all of that work that you're doing to learn how to build the landing pages, right? How to hire the team, right? How to create an elevator pitch and how to go and talk to investors. All of that work, that technical work, is also met with all of the soft work, the deep inner work, how to be connected, external, internal, with yourself, how to be self compassionate, how to get up and go for a walk when you've been sitting there toiling over how to build that landing page for hours, and how to take care of yourself and take care of your family because they're also depending on you, the entrepreneur. So it's an honor to hold this space with both of you. It really is. I'm genuinely gifted with this time and this energy that you've shared with me. And I'm looking forward to when we come back in 2 weeks, because we are going to be back here in 2 weeks sharing some actual tactical strategies that women can use in order to feel like they can get to that place where they can lead, where they can get to that home. But before we go, I have one final question for both of you. There's men who are listening to this conversation, and I'd love you to share one thing that men would take away from this conversation. Just one thing that comes to mind for you, whether they're husbands or they are co-workers or they're children. What's one thing that men should take away from this conversation? Sylvia, over to you, and then I'll come to you, Georgette.
Thank you, Anderson, for addressing this question, very important one. And I would probably just like to give a gentle nudge and reminder to all the men out there that no matter how much we are, as women, stepping into our masculine power and just trying to prove ourselves, our worthiness, and everything around us as such, and fighting for that equal treatment, equal treat basically in general in all aspects ever since emancipation came into the picture historically. No matter what, we are still women, and we still like to stay women and be looked at and treated as well like women. So don't don't pull back from opening that door for the ladies or bringing a flower or just giving a compliment, whether it's your wife, your daughter, or maybe your colleague or your boss, doesn't matter. But giving that small kindness is really something that opens our heart no matter what. It always works wonders. So it can also be your secret weapon. But I think, again, no matter how much we fight for our rights and whatnot, we will still, we are and will still remain women. And we like to tap into our feminine energy and role rather than continuously being in that heavy masculine power, pretending, I don't know, general state of being. So that's my thought before we close.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. You're absolutely right. That just so well said. I can't even say any better. So I'm just gonna hand it over to you, Georgette. Take
Oh,
it
Sylvia,
away.
I love that. I love that so much because I think, I've worked with men who are higher ups and they're like, why are you here type situation. And what I really want to say is we are not competition unless we're going after the same job and I'm putting as much effort as you are. There is still a little bit of competition. But let me tell you something, we really are not competing with each other. We just aren't. We are not competition. And I don't know where that fear came from, but we are not competition because the women in leadership who have done the internal work, who have done the leadership training and all the personal development and all the good things that make them leaders are not your competition. I would really like men to see that and go, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And just because it looks different the way I would do it does not mean they're competing with me. That is not the invitation for you to bark and push and shove and throw under the bus and taunt and create an environment where the women in leadership feel as though they have to have more grit, like Sylvia was saying, get into that masculine energy more, because then it destroys from inside out the environment, the work environment, the tasks that we're supposed to be, the goals that we're supposed to be achieving. It destroys that. Like I said, we're complementary, we are not opposing. So when you see a powerful woman walk into a room and command presence and speak gently or powerfully or in any way that she's speaking, that is not the cue to tear her down. That is the cue to sit back and allow that to happen so that you can just be grounded in your own masculinity. Stay grounded in yours so that the other people can exist. Because not only will you be doing it for the person, the woman in leadership speaking to you, you're doing it for your fellow men to understand that we do have power in just allowing. We don't always have to shove, suppress, put in a corner to establish dominance. Dominance is already established in each and every one of us. It does not make you better because she doesn't know how to do this. And for partners at home, that just, once you love your partner, especially the women, once you love your partner appropriately and find out what they really want, what makes them tick, what makes them happy, joyful, more productive, it does not make you less. It actually elevates you to a standard where you know you can walk comfortably in the world knowing that your competition does not exist. It doesn't, because you're already at the top. And if you're at the top and your woman is at the top, both of you are at the top. So I would read, those are the things. It's not a competition. It's a complementary system. Learn your strengths, learn your weaknesses, balance each other out. And I will yield the mic back to Anderson.
That's you both just made my day. Thank you so much. Those are some incredible points. Be yourself, know yourself. We're complementary, we're not competition. To close out this session, I would love to just say thank you both very, very much for your insights, your energy, your love. It takes love to have these conversations. I know there are areas where people would rather not sit down and just talk about these things. And so thank you for entertaining the conversation. Thank you for everyone who's been listening in from the beginning of this conversation. Like I said, my sister dialed in from Texas. My hubby is also there dialed in, so I hope that he's taking some notes to the conversation. And just to kind of close out, when we talk about masculinity and femininity, I think that they both have their place in the world. I think that the world has been led for so long by, the structures that men put in place, and that served us for as long as it served us. But that time has passed, and this time calls for a different type of leadership, a more empathetic leadership, a more compassionate leadership, leadership that's less about competition and more about collaboration, less about building up walls, more about breaking down those silos. So I'm looking forward to when we come back on Thursday, the 21st, same time, 8 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to be sharing more strategies on how we can get more women up there, because we don't just want to be echo chambers. We actually want to, I don't like using the word empowerment, we actually want to share tools, tips, tricks, experiences, stories, you name it, that can actually help people feel like, wow, I've got potential too, and I can unlock it for me. So I appreciate you both. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to next time. Take care now. Cheers.